Welcome to the Historical Images channel. Subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos. Enjoy watching. The Gettysburg Address. Abraham Lincoln, indicated by red arrow, arrives at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on November 19, 1863, not long before delivering his Gettysburg Address. The last lifeboat off the Titanic. A handful of surviving images depict the Titanic on the water just days before the ship's tragic accident on April 15, 1912. Images of survivors' rescue, like the one here depicting the last lifeboat evacuating the ship, are less common. The San Francisco earthquake of 1906. With at least hundreds more deaths than Pearl Harbor, the San Francisco earthquake of 1906 remains the second deadliest disaster in U.S. history. The quake began on the morning of April 18th, and by the time it ended, the quake had leveled about 90% of the city, left 225,000 homeless, and at least 3,000 dead. Billy the Kid, in person with his posse. This photograph, only discovered in 2010 and subject to much debate over its authenticity, is one of only two known images of Billy the Kid, the other technically being a pharotype, and a rough one at that, from 1879 or 1880. The 1878 photo here, however, presents Billy the Kid, left, in relative clarity, playing croquet with his posse, the Regulators, in New Mexico. The surrender that ended the Civil War. While historians can argue about when exactly the Civil War ended, the widely accepted narrative states that it came to a close on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. Pictured. Soldiers wait outside the courthouse in Appomattox as the higher-ups work out the official terms of surrender. The Klondike Gold Rush is such a rough-and-tumble chapter in U.S. history that it's strange to think that cameras actually documented it. Yet of the approximately 300,000 people who flocked to northwestern Canada in search of gold between 1896 and 1899, a few owned and brought cameras. However scarce, these images provide a glimpse into a period when dysentery and malaria were the norm, and food was so scarce that salt was worth its weight in gold. Pictured. Miners at work, circa 1899. Even more remarkable than the images from the Klondike Gold Rush are those of the famed California Gold Rush 50 years before. This mass migration likewise saw about 300,000 settlers head to California in a move that would shape American history far more than you'd think. Indeed, if not for the influx of people, the accompanying development of San Francisco, the Transcontinental Railroad, and the state of California itself might very well look a lot different. Pictured. A prospector pans for gold in the American River of California's Sacramento Valley, circa 1850. Completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. In today's world of interstate highways, instant communication, and drone delivery, it's almost impossible to understand the earth-shaking significance of the day workers completed America's first transcontinental railroad at Promontory Summit, Utah, on May 10, 1869. It's likewise hard to believe that a moment so antiquated was actually captured, with terrific clarity no less, on film. A man on top of the Golden Gate Bridge during its construction. Building the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco required a lot of bravery. There was an unspoken rule in the 1930s about high steel bridge building projects like this one. Engineers should anticipate one death among the employees for every $1 million spent. The $35 million Gold Gate Bridge, on the other hand, had a stellar safety record with just 11 fatalities. A manually operated traffic control machine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 1922. Cars began colliding with one another shortly after the automobile first reached the streets. It became apparent immediately that laws and procedures were required to ensure that individuals did not crash their vehicles into other cars, people, or structures. Robin Williams and his fans outside a homeless shelter in Boston. When Robin Williams wasn't on stage or ripping it up in front of the camera, he was giving back to those who didn't have nearly as much as he had. Aside from his role as one of the presenters of Comic Relief, a program that raised millions of dollars for those in need, Williams volunteered his own time to assist individuals who were homeless. Mayor Ray Flynn said that any time Robin was in town, he could always be counted on to come down and spend time with those who were less fortunate. New York City residents sit on streets littered with celebration remnants after celebrating the end of World War II. On August 14, 1945, the 15,000 light bulbs on the Times Tower zipper sign spelled out, "Official, Truman announces Japanese surrender," and the city erupted in celebration. Here, a soldier removes the Adolf Hitler street sign after the conclusion of World War II in Germany and replaces it with Roosevelt BLVD. Pyroclastic flow is the mixture of gas, lava, and ash that is expelled from a volcano when it erupts. Here we can see the pyroclastic flow from the eruption of Mat Pinatubo, Philippines, in 1991. Christie Brinkley is another one of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue's supermodel greats. Yes, when a normal model just won't do, SI brings in the super version. Brinkley first appeared in the special issue in the late 70s. She went on to appear on 3 consecutive covers starting in 1979. She also appeared on over 500 magazine covers, making her, at the time, one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. But her most famous role might be in 1983, when she appeared opposite of Chevy Chase as the girl in the red Ferrari in National Lampoon's Vacation. She reprised the role of the girl in the red Ferrari in the 1997 sequel, Vegas Vacation. A controversial figure with an embroiled history of power and dictatorship, Stalin is not someone often displayed as scared or dismayed. This unauthorized image shows him in a defeated position as he discovers the Germans took Kiev, a part of the USSR. The Nazis used an encirclement technique to successfully capture the city, killing about 600,000 people in the process. This battle took many of the resources from the USSR's Red Army, and they were unable to ever fully recover. The oldest surviving aerial photo is of Boston in circa 1860. It was taken by photographer James Wallace Black from a hot air balloon 2,000 ft in the air. It is believed there was one photo of Paris taken from the air in 1858, but this image no longer exists, making this the oldest aerial photo in history. Disneyland is an American landmark recognized throughout the world, and it has weathered the decades as one of the most popular international amusement attractions. But when Walt Disney devoted $17 million to the park's construction in the early 1950s, many saw it as a foolish errand. While television cameras dutifully portrayed opening day on July 17, 1955, as an organized and smoothly executed event, one photographer captured the reality behind the gala as overcrowded masses tried to find their way into the park. The day turned out to be a disaster. After almost triple the amount of people expected arrived, rides broke down, food ran out, and parts of the park had to be closed. Disneyland would eventually come closer to fulfilling its promise as the happiest place on Earth. But this is clear evidence that big ideas rarely go according to plan. The RMS Titanic sunk on the night of the 14th of April and morning of the 15th, resulting in the deaths of over 1,500 passengers and crew. The Titanic's sinking remains one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The oldest surviving photograph to exist. It was taken by pioneer photographer Joseph Nicephore Niepce. The scene depicts a view from a window in Nicephore Niepce's estate known as Le Gras in Saint-Loup-de-Varennes, Bourgogne, France in 1826 or 1827. One of the last surviving veterans of the American Revolutionary War, Lemuel Cook, photographed in 1864. He served in the 2nd Continental Light Dragoons of the Continental Army from the age of 16 in 1775 until his discharge in 1784. Cook was wounded in battle multiple times. He died at the age of 106 on May 20, 1866.